All right, so what did we talk about yesterday? Yesterday we picked up with our modify commands. I kind of did a review. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. We did a bit of a review yesterday with our modify commands, just because we had like a number of days that we were away from each other, and I think it's hard. Some of these skills are perishable if you don't kind of mess with them and practice with them a little bit. So we did a modified command review, and then we either used the markup or the handout to work on the 11 by 17 or work on the rest of the second floor plan. And that, we did that for a while, and it's good to spend some time with that and really problem solve and do your offsets and your trims and your polylines and your extends and so forth. And then we got into inserting our blocks, and we inserted the window block, we inserted the door block, we inserted the residential fixtures drawing as a block, which brought in its blocks, and then we had access to the shower, the soaking tub, the sink, and so forth. And then we moved on to, I think I demonstrated Design Center. It's a great tool. I think the only drawback is just using a different tool to navigate to find the location of your drawings. And my experience has shown that a lot of people will just insert a block or a drawing that's loaded with blocks, as we did yesterday. There's a concept in other software referred to as a seed file. I don't think it's used very heavily in Autocad, but I think it's a cool term. Seed file would imply like you're growing another drawing from this file, sort of a template. But in this case, we inserted that residential fixtures drawing, and it had a lot of the items, the stairs. It had the the commodes and stuff. So that was you could consider that a seed file. Design Center was good for bringing in individual blocks, but you can also use it to copy any named object into your drawing. So that could be blocks, layers, textiles we'll get into later today, dimension styles, and so forth. Any object that has a unique name to it. You can usually seek out objects with Design Center and populate your drawing with those things. Even external references, and that's one of the things that we talked about near the end of the day. And I don't know why I kind of dread this topic. It's not a hard topic. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's not a fun topic. But we went to the Insert tab of the ribbon. We used the Attach command. You can kind of see that in the PowerPoint. We attached the class file for viewing and plotting to our current drawing. And you can compare those two files pretty easily in a visual sense. They are nearly identical drawings. Certainly the drawing on the right is more developed, but it's muted. It seems like it's like there's a transparency or a fading that's been applied to it. That transparency or that fading is by default. If I were to open up my reference panel, there's a little on the Insert tab of the ribbon. There's a little slide bar, and I can control the fading effect to my sort of control it to my tastes, if you will. Again, this appearance doesn't affect how your drawing prints. It's just a visual cue, usually not to us. If we're the ones who set this drawing up and we're sharing this drawing with another team or team member, you would probably want that team member to know that this is an external reference, that it's not a file that can be edited in the way that our live line work can be edited. But that's kind of where we ended up yesterday. We sort of stopped there and called it a day. Questions on any of those topics or topics we've covered, any time in the past? Questions at all? Okay, alrighty then. So let's dismiss this this external reference. We use the attach command to attach an external reference. We'll use the detach command to dismiss it or get rid of it. You could erase this. Like I could select this and delete it. It would still be part of the drawing, which is not a big deal. I don't know. I've had some stuff drummed into my head over the years that the drawings have to be, squared away like I don't know, some military precision situation or whatever. Really, there is no need for it, but I'm going to get rid of this external reference, and you can do this too. Step one is just to select it. Select anywhere on the reference, and with it selected, it brings up a context-sensitive ribbon tab called the External Reference tab, and on that there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commands. And this is probably not intuitive. That icon that we're seeing here is supposed to be like a clipboard, and this allows us to see what other file types or other files in general are attached to our drawing. So if I left click on External References, it'll bring up a palette that is just appeared on my screen, and it shows you, you could have any number of references in your drawing. In this case we have just one. You could have several. In my drawing, my external reference is highlighted, it's been selected, it's also highlighted on the external reference palette. Imagine if I had 6 or 10 different references, which with commercial and government level buildings, that's not uncommon to have a serious number of external references. And it would not always be easy for the person who didn't set these drawings up to know which file is called what. So selecting the reference file in the drawing highlights the reference file in the reference palette, so you can track which line work aligns with what file name. There's not a ton of buttons here, right? There's buttons that would allow me to attach other file types. The file types that you can attach would be drawing. That's kind of natural, but you could attach image files. The DWFs, you maybe never even heard of that file format. That's a native AutoCAD portable file format like PDF. DGN you may have heard of. That's from a company called Bentley, and their software MicroStation is sort of a competitor to AutoCAD. PDF we had done, a couple of us did that. Point clouds, you may at some point get into attaching point clouds that are scanned data that sort of create almost three-dimensional photos of survey areas. And then coordination models are from other file types, other software types, usually Autodesk types though, but by like a Navisworks that allows you to see the interaction between, in this case, architecture and then any other discipline such as plumbing or structure or whatever. It allows you to see where interferences occur. So that's one button there. You could refresh if you knew a change had taken place in your drawing and you're not seeing the changes. You could use the refresh button there. To the right of that, what is this? This is, I'm trying to get a tooltip on this. This is, I don't know what that is. I can't see what that is. It's not. Oh, it just allows you to just change the how your palette looks, and you can go to help here. So really the point I'm trying to stress, I'm not doing a great job of it, is just there's not a lot of commands on this palette. The easiest way to access information or commands about your external references is through a right click. If I right click over top of the named class file for viewing and plotting, I have some options. One is to open, say I don't necessarily know the folder this drawing is in, I could open this reference and edit it. I can attach. Again, attaching is the command we use to bring external references into our drawing. I could unload this. When you unload a reference, it's effectively like turning off a layer. It's still part of your drawing, you just don't see it at the moment. But all the components that come in with that drawing, textiles, layers, what have you, those things are still part of the current drawing. Reload is common if you unload, you want to reload, or if you know changes have taken place in your drawing and those changes are not showing up in the host. If you know changes have taken place in your reference and you're not seeing those changes in your host, you can reload that. And then there's detach, and we'll detach in a minute. Then you have a bind option. If I click bind, the bind allows me to basically convert this external reference into a block and make it a nested, embedded part of this drawing. There are two types of bind. There's bind bind and bind insert, and the difference between the two can be seen in the layer property manager. I've just opened up my layer property manager, and just to kind of show you this, when you attach one drawing to another, even if the drawing that's being attached has all the same layers as the local drawing, you're going to have additional layers added to your drawing because the attach process for layers in a drawing, the drawing that's being attached will bring in its layers, and the layer names will be prefixed with the drawing name. So while the drawing that I brought in is the exact same drawing I'm working on, I have layers like ANO DIMS, ANO Note, ANO TTLB, ADOR. Those names are all prefixed with class file for viewing and plotting, ANO DIMS, class file for viewing and plotting, ANO Note. If I bind my external reference, these layer names stay the same. They go unchanged. If I bind insert was the other option, I'll right click and go back to bind and then insert. Bind insert strips away that the original file name of the reference file, and if I have matching layer names in the host drawing that are present in the reference drawing, they'll merge together, and it's a little bit cleaner if we use the bind insert method. It's basically you're converting it to a block and denying the fact that it was ever a reference. So there's your options there. I'm going back to the reference palette. I'll right click. You can change the path type. Well, let me change the XREF type. You saw this in the attach external reference dialog box. We use the attach method, which fosters a nesting of that reference in the host file or any number of host files away from the original. Overlay places this reference in the current drawing, in this case residential GD residential class file. But if I reference GD residential class file, none of that line work shows up in the next drawing. So the overlay method is only good for one generation from the original. So I could change it back and forth. If I decide that one is a better method than the other, one is a better option, I can change it. Same thing with the path type. You can see, if you can see my screen, I'm hovering over change path type. Two options are active: make absolute, which is another way of saying full path, or remove the path, which is no path. Make relative is grayed out because it currently is a relative path type reference. And so it's kind of nice is I didn't always value this. They had added these features a few years ago to allow the user to have more control over their external reference. And it is nice to have these just these options available to the user. All right. Any questions on external referencing? I know I'm sort of steamrolling that topic, but can I add any detail or? All right. I'm going to right-click over the class file for viewing and plotting. I'll detach it, the opposite of attach, and that drawing is gone. It's like it was never even here. And you can detach yours as well. And then what that will create is a very clean environment, leaving behind only our current drawing line work. And then I'll just dismiss the external reference palette and save the drawing. All right, questions on anything at all? Okay. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So we got through almost every topic, day 3 topic yesterday. We talked about blocks, design center, attaching external references. We looked at tool palettes. I think, Sean, you had said there's maybe 2 blocks on your tool palette that you might take advantage of, and Taylor, there might be a few you might take advantage of. That certainly that toilet's not an attractive topic, but that toilet was a nicer, as a better fit graphically for our drawing than the one that came in from the residential fixtures drawing. But it's neither here nor there. There's a number of tools that are available to us. We didn't talk about hatch yesterday, and we can talk about that now. Hatch is a command that allows us to sort of fill in a bounded area with a color or a pattern. And in our example, I don't have my class file for viewing and plotting up, but I'll bring it up so you can see this. In the general notes for class file for viewing and plotting, the last general note says solid shading represents drawing from exercise number 7, bedroom drawing. And if I go back to the model environment of this drawing and I zoom in, indeed the master bedroom walls are filled in with a solid color, if you will. You can't really call it a pattern. And then it's very faint, but the walls on the left are using what would appear to be like a net or a mesh pattern. So it kind of just delineates one exercise from the others. So we're going shade our drawing or put some hatch in our drawing. One of the strategies I tend to use prior to using the hatch tool is to freeze any layers that might cause issue with the hatch command. And what does that mean? Well, sometimes hatch doesn't know how to respond to a block encroaching upon the boundary. We have these window blocks, we have these door blocks, the plumbing fixture blocks, and so forth. I'm going to freeze the layers that these objects sit upon. Now I know the layer names are A glaze, A door, P floor fix, and so forth. But let's imagine I didn't know that. There's a tool on the layers panel that allows me to selectively freeze the layers that I want to freeze. And before I do this, on the Home tab of the ribbon on the layers panel, I'm going to change layers. The layer we're going to use for the hatch pattern is a layer called AWOL, P-A-T-T, or AWOL Pat. I'm going to set that as my current layer first, and you can do the same thing. Open up your layer window, left-click AWOL Pat. Now that's the current layer. And I know there's nothing, I haven't used this layer yet, so I know there's none of my windows should be on that layer, none of my doors, and so forth. Now on the layer panel, you've got a number of tools right below your layer window. The first little tool is called Layer Off. It has like a blue-gray light bulb, sort of indicating an off light bulb. You have a layer called, or a tool called Isolate. And the third tool is a little layer icon with a snowflake next to it. This is Freeze. I'm going to click on Freeze. It starts the command. It says select object on the layer to be frozen. I'll left-click one window, left-click one door, left-click one plumbing fixture. I'll even click one of the shelf lines and the bench line, and I'll stop there. So I've frozen 4 or 5 layers. I'll hit escape and then save. And if you haven't already done that, give that a try. It's the command called freeze, and it's a little button with a snowflake in the bottom right corner of it. Okay, so hopefully that worked out okay for you. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to turn my grid off, and I'm not even sure if the grid, if Go-To training has the level of detail. I'm going to turn the grid off. The grid is very helpful when the drawing is blank, but the drawing is clearly not blank any longer. Turning the grid off is going to allow me to sort of zoom in and take a look at the leftmost wall line of my master bedroom. I want to make sure I'm sealed off from all the non-master bedroom walls. So I've got this valid boundary. I'll put circles where these valid boundaries are. I want to have a valid boundary there, and there, and there, at that intersection, and that one. So there's 5 little locations that I want to have sealed off. And I mentioned it earlier, but it's a lot. I talk a lot, so it could have been missed. These are areas, if they are trimmed open, you can use your extend command to close them. Your hatch command will look for a closed boundary. It wants a valid closed boundary to contain it. And if these walls are trimmed out, that hatch will spill into the balance of the second floor plan. It's not a big deal, but we're just trying to honor that general note G by keeping those walls sealed off. Once I've identified those little areas, I've made sure that I'm sealed off, I'll get rid of these circles. They'll mess me up for sure if I leave them there. I'll select one, right click, select similar from the right click menu, captures all 5, and then I'll hit the erase button on the modify panel. And then let's go to page 44. Talks about hatching, And there's not a ton of graphic here. There's the home tab of the ribbon is shown. On the draw panel, bottom right corner, there's an unlabeled tool that looks like a square with some fill in it, some shading in it. And that's the hatch button. And when we start the hatch button, or when we start the hatch command, the entire ribbon will change into this context-sensitive hatch creation ribbon tab, which is, you've seen that with external references, with the array tool. Some of the tools sort of just seize the ribbon and just make it its own. So I'm going to start with locating that button. Right, that button is on the bottom right corner of the draw panel. It's like a square, and there's some shading in it. When you find that, go ahead and left click on it. And this will bring up a new tab with some different panels, and I'll sort of relate these panels to you as you're looking at them. The first panel is the boundaries panel. This allows us to determine the method for selecting our boundaries. There's a pick point method. That's the method we want to use in this example. With the pick point method, the icon that you see there for pick points is a square with a plus sign in the middle, and that basically simulates a bounded area with the crosshairs centered inside of it. So we'll use the crosshairs and we'll center inside of our wall boundaries, not on the boundary but inside the boundary, and we'll left click when we get the preview. So sometimes you'll use the select method. That is when you have boundaries crossing through boundaries. I could have a rectangle drawn sort of all the way through this floor plan that sort of sticks out both sides and crosses several lines. Using the select method would allow me to identify just that rectangle as my boundary, and it would ignore any other sub-boundaries, if you will. But we'll use the pick point method. The pattern we're asked to use for this first set of hatches in the master bedroom is solid. So just kind of left click on solid, and it kind of grays out some of the other tools that would allow you to change angle, change scaling, and that sort of stuff. Solid is just solid. Once I've chosen solid, I'll just hover my crosshairs or center my crosshairs inside of one of my wall boundaries and then left click. So there's one hatch, left click, left click. I'm just waiting for that boundary to display. Left click. I should be zoomed in a little further, but it's working out. When I get that last little piece of wall, I'll hit enter to end the command. How's that working? That work all right? It's not real tough, but the hard part is just having the bounded area. You know, that's the hard part. The hatch tool, in the past, the hatch tool would not allow you to fill a bounded area that was formed by lines. You'd have to sort of convert it into polylines or whatever, and it could be very tedious to use the hatch command. It's just come a long way since those days.
I didn't add those lines, so it made the whole entire floor plan turn that color. So
I mean, it's not a big deal. If you want, you can undo and you can close those, or if you feel like you have an idea how the command works, you can just move forward. What do you think? What's the move here?
Well, do you want us to make them that shade?
I mean, you can do the whole thing this shade here. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
It won't be that different. So take a look at this, Taylor. I'm going to shade the rest of the floor plan, and this will give you the idea of how it works. Is I'm going to click hatch again, and I will change to a different pattern I'm going to get to that different pattern by hitting the down arrow twice in the pattern window. I'll click ANSI 37, and the only reason that we were asked to use two different patterns is because of this. If I left click inside of this boundary, it's kind of locking up on me a little bit, I'll left click. This is a pattern, but on screen it looks just like a solid. So your patterns typically will require us to change a scale. The scale defaults to 1. I'm going to change the scale to 12 and then hit enter, and then you can see a clear difference between those two. That's the only reason we're asked to use two different patterns. So it's not a problem if you hash the whole thing solid.
Okay.
So as you're doing that, your hatches often are used to denote building material, and like some of your hatches are concrete, some are steel, some are earth. And if this were truly a design drawing that we're handing in to a permitting office or maybe an engineer or an architect, chances are good these walls would be of very similar composition. So it probably wouldn't be as far a stretch of the imagination that the hatches would all be the same. Like before, when I'm done, I'm going to hit enter to end that command.
How did you change from solid to textured like that?
So what I did was I went back to hatch, and then on not the boundaries panel, but on the pattern panel, I used the down arrow twice on the patterns panel to find ANSI 37. It could be any pattern. It really doesn't matter what pattern you use. I left click ANSI 37, and then on the properties panel of the hatch creation tab, I changed the scale, which is currently at 1.0000, change that to a scale of 12, and just kind of swipe over it and type 12. If you use the up arrow, it might take you a while, and then you can just left click, so you sort of see a difference in the pattern.
So as I'm doing this, I came across one where it wouldn't let me do it, and it has these like shaded red circles in a corner.
Can I take a look at your screen?
Sure.
All right, making you the presenter. Gotcha. So it's funny they're shaded, but the shades are, if you zoom in pretty tight where those circles are, like if you point your crosshairs right where you want to go and you roll the wheel, see that would indicate there is a gap in those lines. I do not see one. AutoCAD thinks it does, so that's weird. But if you zoom back out, and let's see if you can see the whole boundary. There you go. Try it again. Go ahead and start hatch again. So you notice that first of all the circle's cleared. That's assuming you've corrected that gap.
Nope. I wonder why I did that.
It's possible that you see how where's a good spot? Okay, now that same boundary you just hatched, see how part of it's off screen?
Mm-hmm.
AutoCAD might think that's an open boundary because it's off screen. So anything we can't see, AutoCAD can't see either.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that crazy?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I want to do the stairs, and it comes up with an error. It says a closed boundary cannot be determined.
Okay, let's take a look at it. Making you the presenter. And when you're ready. So that, where is the issue there? That looks, so if you close that, and if you hit enter to end the command, and sort of, so that's a block, and that could be why it is. If you left click on that, any part of that stair, good, and just hit the explode button. There you go. So that just went away because one of the layers is turned off. Would it be the plumbing layer? That was explode. It wasn't erased, right? If you hit F2,
Right. F2.
it's explode, yeah. So it went to a different, it should have gone to layer 0. If you click the layer window where it says AWOL Pat, open that up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what your layers say here. Yeah, if you click the snowflake on layer 0, that should come back. That line work should come back. There you go. And then what's the move here? Let's left click on left click on one of your arcs. Good, and you can right click and select similar. Just below midpoint. There you go. And left click on one of your lines, do the same thing. Good, and then one of the squares where the railings terminate. Then you right click and select similar. And then open up your layer window and click on the layer name AWOL.
Layer name.
Good. And then hit escape. You've just moved all that to the wall layer. And then try hatching it again. See if you have a better result. I can't guarantee you will, but there's a good chance you will.
So there.
You retained all your settings.
Okay. Yep.
Nice. So that's just, AutoCAD doesn't really always know, and the hatch command, and I know I'm using this like, I'm stating this like it's a personality, but AutoCAD doesn't know how to handle blocks sometimes when it, because it's one object, so it couldn't determine it as a boundary. Does that make sense how I said that? It was kind of poorly said. So there you go, hatch. It used to be really tough to work with the hatch tool. The boss would be like, "Hey, Darren, can you hatch the second floor plan?" And I'd be like, "Can you just fire me? I just feel like it's just going to be easier for everybody all around." But it's just gotten better, and I dig AutoCAD now. I mean, I did before too. I mean, it was one of those things like your weird friend, and you got it. Not all your other friends did. All right. Let me know when you're done with your hatching, and we'll move forward. So in this case, we're using the hatch object to just separate two different. What are we separating? Just two different exercises, basically. So I'm teaching this class in Baltimore, the 15th through the 18th, which I kind of dread that. I like Baltimore. I like being in Baltimore. I don't like going to Baltimore. That's just the Route 95 between here and Baltimore. It's just a very stressful drive in the morning and the afternoon. All right. Need another minute or two for hatching?
I think I'm good.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite tools, one of my favorite layer tools. We froze 5 or 6 layers. I don't know what it was. You know, below that freeze tool where we have that little snowflake icon is a little sunshine icon, and this is thaw all layers. So if we go ahead and click thaw all layers, it instantly brings back all those layers that we had frozen earlier. Kind of a quick and easy way to get your drawing back to the status that it was. All right. Questions so far? Questions on anything? So in the original drawing, the hatch pattern was faded, or it was transparent to some degree. In my drawing, it's not. I'm not sure about your drawing. And if you want your hatch to be transparent, the easiest way to do that is to set a transparency value to your AWOL pat layer. And here's how that works. I'm going to click the Layer Properties Manager. And then now because AWOL pat is the current layer, it's highlighted in my layer manager. And I'll sort of stretch this back the other way. So you've got AWOL pat, and then the transparency property in my layer manager is way far to the right. So the transparency for all layers is currently set to 0. I'm going to left click on, I'm going to scrunch this up so you can get a good look at this when it happens. I'll click on the 0, and I'm going to change it to something like 80. I'll go 80 with this drop down window. Say OK. And that made the pattern on the left hand side almost invisible. Let me change it back to like 60. There we go. That's a little bit better. So it just kind of toned down the hatch. It was really sort of almost overpowering prior to making that change to it. And so you can make anything in AutoCAD transparent. It's just totally up to you why you do that, what you want to be transparent. All right, questions on anything? Okay, all right. I'm going to save the drawing and let's move forward. Go on to back to the PowerPoint. So we've captured all of the day 3 topics. We'll move on to, really we've got like 3 big topics left as text formatting and text placement, dimension formatting and dimension placement, and then preparing your drawing to plot. And then these are like 2 30-second topics. So here's something I've been doing for the last couple years, and I probably should make a permanent change to the book, but I haven't done this yet. So let's do something here where if we were to go sort of chronologically, or that may not be the correct way to say that, but if we follow the book, numerically, if we go to the next page, page 46 and 47 is text formatting. And then you go into dimension formatting, and then there's page setup. Let's skip ahead to page setup for a second here on page 50, and then we will get into basically we'll know what our scale is supposed to be. So 2 things that are pretty heavily impacted by the scale of the drawing are text and dimensions. If I were going to give you an example of why that is, I might start my text tool. I'll go ahead and left click my multi-line text button on the annotation panel on the home tab. This command wants me to create a window to hold my text, so I'll do 1 left click, 2 left click, and I'll just type in something intelligent like this is text, and I'll left click away from that. And I don't know if you saw my screen, but that command was working, but 2 things are happening. One is that command, or that text object, is on a transparent layer, and the other thing is it's tiny. If I zoom in to see that text, there it is. So the text typically doesn't look this good. I mean, it's tiny, but it looks good. where usually it doesn't. It looks very sort of not rounded, and it looks very unprofessional. So the text objects in AutoCAD are usually not ready to work the way we'd like them to at the outset of our time to place text. We need to do some formatting, and one of the elements for formatting is the scale of our drawing. So setting our drawing up to print will help us determine the scale. So let's get into, I'm going to bring up a document here. I'm going to make sure it's in your materials area. Just a second. There we go, materials. I don't see it in there, but I'll upload it. But I'll show it to you on screen here. Hopefully this won't be too irritating with me bouncing back and forth between a couple different documents. This little list. I'm big on lists for whatever reason. You know, if something is in a list, I can more confidently say, predict it will get done. So we have a list of things to do to get your drawing ready to print. Step 1 is to save the drawing. Step 2 is to switch from model space to layout space by left-clicking layout 1 or layout 2. So back in the drawing, right? I know I've just done this, but I'm going to hit save just to sort of stay with the list. I'll click save, and you can too. And then we'll click on one of the layout tabs at the bottom of the drawing window, layout 1 or layout 2. Doesn't matter which one. All right, so when I say it doesn't matter which one you click on, it might matter, but really layout 1 and layout 2, we haven't, at least as a group, the three of us, we haven't done much editing in either of the layout tabs. So they'll probably be equally just unedited. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. But I will say this, this window that is showing us our floor plan, this is called the viewport, and the viewport gets created the very first time you switch from model space to layout space, and it will try to show you everything in model space without regard to scale. And that is why my drawing is so perfectly centered, perfectly fit into the window. This is the very first time I've come out here, and there's nothing else in my my model space. If I just had the stairs here, this window would be filled with stairs. If I just had like a circle or whatever. Ultimately, if you're not happy with the viewport, you can change it, and one of the ways you can change it is just to erase it and create another one. And that actually is our next step. We're going to erase the viewport. It says viewports can be stretched to any size, but it's often easier to create a new one, and this gives us an excuse to show you how to create new viewports. So step 4, we'll delete that viewport. No, yeah, 4, no, 3, sorry, getting confused. Just single left click the viewport. You can hit delete, or you can hit your erase button, whatever, and that will just get rid of that viewport. The illusion is you've deleted your drawing. That's not the case. We've just deleted the window we were viewing our drawing through, and we can go to model space. If you don't believe me, you can check and see if your drawing is still there. All right, so far so good. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert a block. What does it say here? This is kind of the same, so I probably could paste this. On page 50 it says switch to layout space. We're going to insert the title block, and it's kind of the same thing. It's a little bit more detail here. Step 4 says insert border, called the 11 by 17 CAD title block. Most title blocks are designed to be inserted in layout space at an insertion point of 0,0 and a rotation factor of 0. So we're going to insert that border, and the border will come in on a layer called ANOTTLB. So if you open up your layer control window and find ANOTTLB, for me it's the 4th from the top. ANOTTLB is architectural annotation title block. It's the border layer, and we just left click on that, and we made the border layer white in model space, which makes it black in layout space, so it'll be a nice bold border, it'll stand out nicely. So if you want to change layers, you can go ahead and do that, and I'll pause while you do. So a border or a title block is just a block, like your window is a block, like your door is a block. It's not much different. It's a drawing. So we're going to click on the Home tab, Block Panel, click the Insert button. That's going to open up your block gallery. That block is not in this gallery. We have to click More Options. We'll go More Options, and then we'll browse. Should take you back to the folder you've been working from, and hopefully you can find that 11 by 17 or 11x17 CAD title block. We'll select that and click Open. And then when you get back to your Insert dialog box, pause there for a second. Were you able to find that drawing okay? Any issues finding it?
Nope, all good.
Awesome, great. I'm going to uncheck on the Insert dialog box. I'm going to uncheck the Specify on Screen, really all the Specify on Screen checkboxes. I've got one checkbox checked under Insertion Point. I'll uncheck that. I've got one checkbox under Rotation. I'll uncheck that. And there's this note, and I know you can't see it, but I'll bring it up the second I can. It says Insert Border 11x17 CAD title block. Most title blocks are designed to be inserted in layout space at an insertion point of 0, 0, rotation factor of 0, and unchecking those Specify on Screen checkboxes forces the title block to insert at 0, 0. We haven't changed the scale, so the scale should come in at 1, and the rotation factor should also be 0. And when you're ready, you can hit OK. And that should bring up another dialog box. This dialog box allows you to fill out project-specific data, like the name of the project or the address of the project, things like that.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that box, the dialog box, right before you clicked OK, you had uniform scale was checked.
Yeah.
Can we keep that checked?
can.
Mine's not checked.
Yeah, I had it won't hurt. You can leave it checked. We're not changing the scale, but if you were going to change the scale, you typically would make it a uniform change, X, Y, and Z. Is that a good answer? Does that sound like I dodged it?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yep.
Okay, cool. Sometimes, like with our window, say you're going to bring your window in, you might not do uniform scale with the window because the window is symmetrical. left to right. So we could change the X scale and make a longer window, but not make it a fatter window, if you will, or a blockier window.
I must have missed a step because the edit attributes didn't pop up after I clicked OK.
If you look at your command line, is it saying specify insertion point?
I don't know. No, no, I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to cancel. That's fine. Control Z. I'm going to undo. So you can hit escape.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to insert, more options, and browse, and find your 11 by 17 CAD title block, and we'll hit open. And just make sure insertion point, specify on screen is unchecked, scale, specify on screen is unchecked, rotation, specify on screen is unchecked, and then you can hit OK.
Okay, yeah, my uniform scale wasn't checked.
Okay. And did you get that dialog box this time?
It says the block definition has changed. Do you want to redefine it?
Yeah, you can say yes. Or redefine.
Okay, yep. Okay, I'm where you are now.
Cool. So who knows what it was? It could have been the uniform scale. It could have been any other thing. But so this is an attributed block, and an attributed block is a block that just has text in it that can be edited. Typically, if you want to change a block, you've got to explode it or go into the block editor. Both of these things are a little time consuming and can also have effects that might be negative. Not always, but so this particular block has these fields or the windows that we can edit. Do you know what kind of sheet numbers you'll be using for your drawings? Will they be like A1 or A100 or FP1 or any ideas? It might be too soon to tell.
I have no idea.
Let's do this. We'll call this FP1. No, let's go 201. 201, second floor plan. And it may not even be decided yet. There may not be drawing numbers. You just never know. Like if you worked in an architectural firm, this might be A202 actually. The first two denotes often a floor plan, and then 2 might be the second floor plan in the series. But it might, who knows? Doesn't matter. Once you type in a drawing number or enter sheet number, you can hit enter. Let's just call this. It says enter project name. We'll call this class file. And you can hit enter, and you can enter your company address. I'll enter my company address, which is 6361 Walker Lane. You can also use my address if you don't want to put your company address on there. So there's 2 lines for address. I'm doing the street number and street name, and then enter. I'll put in the city and state, Alexandria, VA. And then I'll hit enter. The drawing contents, I'll type in second floor, enter, plan. And the remainder of stuff like the scale, the date, my initials, I'll put those things in later, just to show you how you can get back into editing that attribute. So when you're ready, you can hit OK to come out of this. And if you roll your mouse way back, you'll notice that the border is too large for the paper. So the paper that we see here in the layout is, I use the term placeholder. I don't know if anybody else does. But there's a number of things in AutoCAD that I would consider placeholders. Layer 0 would be a placeholder, keeping the category open until we create additional layers. That text style that I put into model space, that tiny little piece of text, that's called standard text. It's rarely used on its own. It's a placeholder and so forth. As is this paper. You might at some point use 8.5 by 11 paper for one of your drawings, but maybe not. So this is just sort of the first piece of paper in a long list of paper sizes. So good time to hit save. So this next one, I'll be really careful to sort of walk through this methodically. Right now we're up to step 5, and step 5 maps basically directly to page 5051, where we'll get into page setup. And this is not hard, it's just not terribly intuitive. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to copy this little blurb here on page 50, and then I'll paste it back in Autocad. Let's say I paste it off to the right. It's huge. Of course it's huge. That's fine. Just kind of get this so I can see it, so you can see it. All right, so we've done a number of steps here. We've switched to layout space. We've inserted the border. Next thing we'll do is we'll launch Page Setup Manager. Here it says using the application menu, so we certainly could do that. But take a look at my screen if you can for a second, or your screen, doesn't matter what. There's a context-sensitive ribbon tab that appeared when we switched from model space to layout space. You may not have noticed it. It's pretty subtle, but it's a layout tab called, or it's a tab called Layout, and it's kind of tinted blue. Do you both have that, or do either of you have that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Go ahead and left click on that. Do you have it too, Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. This is a pretty nice little change they made to AutoCAD. But I mean, I want to say they made this change quite a while ago. Most of the tools you may not even have all these tools. I've got layout viewports, create view, modify view, update, style, and standards. Do you all have all that?
Yes.
Okay. Most of these tools, really, if I just take my highlighter and I'm going to say, the tools that you're probably never going to use would go from here to there. These tools here are for converting 3D drawings into 2D images. And you might at some point do that, but this is, people who do 3D modeling, I think they're kind of few and far between in AutoCAD. But you might do it. So what we're looking for, I love this. This is a change they made. I think it's great. Is they put layout panel, and so you get into your new layout. We don't need a new layout. We're in a layout. We can go to Page Setup Manager, and then after that we can go to Viewports and create viewports. So it's just that's really a cool workflow they set up. So to get into this, go ahead and click Page Setup first. We'll click that Page Setup button. And that'll bring up the dialog box that we see on page 50. That's the Page Setup Manager. The Page Setup Manager is called that just because you can have any number of page setups in this window. Like if you had a CAD manager at your office or offices, the CAD manager might create templates that have in this window, this page setup window, you might have 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, 18 by 24, 24 by 36, and just on and on and on, and you have all these different page setups you could choose from. Well, here we're working in the absence of a CAD manager, so we have to create our own. So once you're in this dialog box, we'll just start by clicking New. What we'll do is we'll name this in the little new page setup name. Just type in 11x17 PDF. And if you're still looking at this dialog box on your screen, it really doesn't matter what you check in the Start With window. It would matter if you had a page set up called 8.5 by 11 PDF or 24 by 36 PDF. So we don't have anything like that. So we're kind of working from scratch. So you can click none, click nothing, doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and click OK when you're ready. OK. So from here, Taylor, I think I can walk you through this without you having to bounce back and forth between AutoCAD and my screen. I'll try to just be real overt with, you know, what windows, what things we're changing. You can stop me if I get too far ahead.
Okay.
So the first window that you typically want to make changes to will be the printer/plotter window, and that may be intuitive and maybe common sense. But I've in the past I've sort of gone through, changed my paper, changed my scale, changed whatever, and then changed the plotter, and it didn't have the paper size that I wanted, so it resets everything. So, and it's kind of intuitive where they place it. For the printer plotter, open this up and scroll towards the bottom, and maybe, you know, 3 from the bottom, you might see DWG to PDF PC3. And if you don't have that, let me know. So what's kind of cool about this is AutoCAD comes pre-equipped with a number of plotters, if you will, or printers.
I don't have that.
You don't have that one? Okay. How about
DWG to PDF?
say it again?
Is it DWG to PDF?
Yes.
I have it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're still friends. So there's so many there, right? You may have printers that are at your office. Like if you can see my screen, I've got Grant Alex 5525, Grant Alex 9050, blah, 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 blah. And then AutoCAD adds its own, like AutoCAD PDF general documentation, AutoCAD PDF high quality, AutoCAD PDF smallest file. So there's all these different PDF methods. Any of those would work fine. You know, I don't use them only because I've sort of adopted the first one in the family, which was DWG. AutoCAD makes DWG files, and we're going to output it to PDF. This used to make big files. I don't think it does any longer. It's just very reliable. So once you've chosen DWG to PDF PC3, the next thing we'll do is change the paper size. And the paper size, for me, currently it's ANSI Full Bleed A, which is too small. That's what you're seeing there in the background. Open up your list, and again, scroll towards the bottom, and it's going to be, well, I'll tell you how many it's going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 options from the bottom. We're looking for ANSI Expand B 11 by 17. ANSI Expand B 11 by 17. The expand is important. Expand just means you've got a narrow, very narrow margin with this particular paper size. Plain old ANSI B has a standard margin. That margin would cut off parts of your border. So once you find it, go ahead and click on ANSI Expand B 11 by 17. Then, moving your eyes down the dialog box, in the plot area, what to plot, change what to plot from layout to extents. Extents. And as you're doing that, extents in AutoCAD is, if we're in model space and you double click your mouse wheel, you're zooming out to the extents of your drawing, which is either the drawing limits, the numeric drawing limits you set up at drawing setup time, or it's the largest thing in the drawing, which in our case would be the border. The border is the largest thing, so it should capture it. Once you choose extents, a little checkbox under plot offset origin set to printable area, a checkbox that says center the plot. If you check center the plot, it should, you know, make it nice and neat for you. And you can check your preview. Bottom left corner, check your preview. So let me know if yours doesn't look good. Okay, good. So take a look at mine for a second, if you would. Mine is a mess, and it's my fault that mine's a mess because I brought in the step-by-step here. This is the text on the right side of my preview is what's called an OLE, outside link and embed, and I pasted some data from Publisher just so I wouldn't have to flip back and forth. This is AutoCAD doing exactly what I told it to do. Try to capture the extents, which that PDF, I mean not PDF, that OLE is part of the extents. So here's how I'm going to handle this. You can keep yours the way it is if you're happy with it. I'm going to hit the X on mine, and then I'm going to change from extents, what to plot extents, I'm going to change to window. Now you could use window every time, but you shouldn't have to. It's going to make more work for you. Not a lot of work, but more. I'll go window. With my object snap, I'll left click the upper left corner, left click, and then come down and get the upper right corner, left click. And I don't know if you saw, but I had these red bars all the way around my mock-up preview. Then I'll go to preview, and I'm happy with that. That looks good. I'm going to get rid of that highlight. But that's what I'm looking for. I want to have nice, even margins all the way around. I can see all my text in my border. And go ahead and hit the X to come out of that preview. Almost done with this part. So you've chosen your printer plotter. You've chosen your paper size. You've chosen what to plot, either extents or I had to use window. Maybe you centered your plot. It kind of makes it nice and even if you center the plot. Then moving your eyes right where it says plot scale, leave the plot scale at 1:1. It's full size. We're going to use a viewport or a window to control the scale of the drawing, so we won't mess with that. Under plot style table, we have some options. Do you want to print this full color? Do you want to print it black and white? Do you want to print it screened and so forth? A lot of options. Let's say we want to print black and white. Open up your little drop down window under plot style table. Find a plot style table called monochrome. Monochrome. So this comes with AutoCAD, and it just allows every color, red, yellow, green, blue, to print black, and you can fine tune it. There's actually a little editor button to the right of the window where it says monochrome that is supposed to be a plotter with a wrench under it, and if you click on that little button, that edit plot style button, it'll show you either the general tab, a table view, or a form view tab. I'm on the form view tab, and it allows me to see 13 colors at one time, red, color 1 through color 13. I probably could stretch this out. Yeah, this can be stretched out. Really, with a plot style table and a monochrome plot style table, everything will print black. What you might change is line weight, and you might not even change anything, but line weight, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 from the bottom, allows you to change how thick a line prints. So let's say for us, the walls are pretty important, the windows are pretty important, doors are pretty important, right? You see a pattern here. We make all those objects, which would be what? Color 113, color 31, color 151, would all have a line weight that's pretty hefty, like 0.25 millimeter or 0.35 millimeter or whatever. But then you have the dimensions in the text, which is color 211, color 231. Those are telling a story. They're not drawing objects. Maybe we would make the line weight for those objects something thinner, like 0.20, 0.180, whatever. This is something that you could do. This is, I don't know if it's an advanced skill you'd call it, but it's extra, and it's an optional step. You could get into that. You may, when you start using AutoCAD, find that someone has developed a plot style table for you. You may have a nice template waiting for you to do your AutoCAD drawings with. So this work will not have to be done by you two. It's just do the drawing, which is kind of nice. So I'll cancel this dialog box unless there's any questions. And then I have a habit or a preference. Once I choose my plot style table, I like to check the box right below it. That says display plot styles. That allows me to see, you know, all my colors, which could be yellows or blues or greens, they all look black out here, which on a white background is just much, much more easy to read. One last thing here. Under plot options, put a check mark in plot transparency. We asked our hatch to be transparent so it's not overpowering the drawing, and on screen that effect has taken place, but your transparency doesn't plot automatically. According to Autodesk, plotting with transparency takes longer than it does to plot without transparency. Well, maybe it does. With this drawing, I can't tell. This drawing is so small I can't see a difference. And you know what? Sometimes it's worth the wait. And having the ability to sort of have that hatch toned down and be partially see-through, or sometimes entirely see-through, it's totally worth any extra time it takes. So that's my opinion. And that's it. Then we can go ahead and hit OK. All we've done so far, and it may seem like a lot because I jabber on a lot, but we've chosen a printer, chosen a paper size, chosen what part of the drawing to print, and we've centered it. Check the preview. Maybe you fixed your drawing based on your preview, or your preview is fine. We left the scale alone. Then we chose a plot style table, monochrome, so it all prints black and white. And then we chose plot transparency, and that's it. Questions on any of that? Questions at all? All right, I'm going to hit OK. You can hit OK. This puts you back in the Page Setup Manager dialog box, and to this point we've created a page setup, but we haven't set it current. There's a Set Current button. Right now you can see in the background my paper is still too small for my border. I'll click Set Current, and that will snap the paper to the border, and it might even zoom to extent, so you kind of get a really good look at what your printed drawing will look like, well, at least the border part of it. And then we can close the Page Setup Manager, and we should instantly save the drawing. Questions on any of that? Okay. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. We've been going at it almost 80 minutes, roughly. And when we come back, we'll bring the viewport back. We'll determine the scale and so forth, and that'll help us size our text, size our dimensions, and so forth. So let's do, where are we at? We're at 10:15. Let's do a 20. We'll do a 20-minute break. So we'll start back at 10:35, or when the timer winds down from 20 minutes. Let me open this up. We'll go 20, and we'll see you in a little bit, and we'll have more fun with AutoCAD after the break. Enjoy your break.